All right, guys, we have Ellaine Maala here. She's a nurse practitioner, business owner, podcast host, everything you could think of. Um, Huge in the healthcare finance space. But Ellaine, tell us how you got into nursing, and we'll go from there.
Okay, wow. That is like huge. Sometimes I don't even think of myself as like a huge person. But my name is Ellaine Maala. I am a nurse practitioner. I have been in the nursing profession for like 14 years now, almost 14 years. So right now I am a nurse practitioner and yeah, I just like any other Filipinos, like we all got into the profession because of our families, but I initially really wanted like a career in healthcare. I thought I was going to be a physician when I was younger because my
Hmm.
dad is a physician. And growing up, like we immigrated here, and then my mom's like, you should just be a nurse. Like my mom is a nurse, by the way. And so I was like, okay, if that can get me into healthcare profession, because I've always wanted like kind of patient care and all that stuff. And then I got into, being a nurse, and then I ended up falling in love with the profession. I was like, this is like the best decision that I have ever made. I really love the work that I do as a nurse, but like growing up, money was never talked about, finance was never talked about. And then so I was really bad with money initially, like especially when I was a new grad nurse. I was not thinking about investing, retirement, and all that stuff. As you know, like, we just want to
Yeah,
get our money, spend it, and all that stuff. And then
yeah,
so I ended up having a platform on social media about talking about investing, because I think this is something that is need to be talked about in our profession. But that's how I got into nursing, and then now I'm a nurse, business owner, and at the same time, like um I know I don't see myself retiring as a nurse, anytime soon, but from full-time nursing, then that's kind of like the plan. But yeah, that's like me in a nutshell. I'm also a mom. I have 2 kids, so my husband, yeah.
yeah. Like I was listening to like a lot of the other podcasts you're on. I feel like we have like similar stories. I think we have like the same
Yeah.
age kids
Yeah.
and a whole bunch of stuff. Like everything happened during COVID.
I know. I was reading your profile. I was like, wait, like this sounds like me. Like we're kind of in the same, like profession for the same amount of time. We had kids during the pandemic, and then now we both talk about money. So I'm like, he's like my like like
The guy East Coast version.
yes, the guy is this version on the other side of the country.
But yeah, that's so. Let's talk about like when you first got into nursing, get that big girl, big boy paycheck, and it's so easy to spend the money. Like, what made you change the mindset of let's try to figure this out?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, I actually worked at Forever 21. I was a sales associate when I was in college.
Hmm.
And then I was also working part time as a student assistant in our college. And so I was making like $8, like minimum wage here in California at that time. And so when I became a nurse, I was making way, way more, almost like not even like triple of the amount that I was making when I was, a student. And the initial reaction when you get this kind of changes, especially in your finances, is to think, oh, what can I spend? Especially, I think that was the mindset for me coming from like a household where money equals spending. And when I became a nurse, like, investing money and all that stuff is not something, it's like really not even in my mind, not in even my vocabulary. I even like tell everybody that I don't really put money in my 401k back when I was a new grad nurse, because I want to see the money that I worked so hard
Hmm.
for. So like when they initially like kind of deducted that from my paycheck, I was like, wait, like where's my money
Where'd
going?
it
And
go?
then like, where did it go? And then I was like, I want to see it. I want to, spend the money that I worked so hard for. So I stopped contributing to my retirement. And then I was like happy that I was getting the most out of, the work that I did
Yeah.
as a nurse. And, being a nurse is so difficult, especially as a new grad, because you're learning everything. But
Hmm.
then to be honest with you, like that even really didn't even change until maybe like 7-8 years after I became a nurse. So that first 7-8 years of my career is all about making money and spending it. And it wasn't until like I started kind of reading about personal finance, reading about like I know everybody and their mom like read Rich Dad Poor
Oh
Dad
yeah.
as their first book. And that kind of opened my eyes to where like, wow, like I can actually make my money work for me and I can actually invest. And I don't need to actually um like not enjoy my money in a sense by investing. Like you can do both. Like I always tell people like you don't necessarily have to invest everything, all your money, save everything. You can also enjoy it and at the same time
Yeah.
build the life that you want for yourself. So ever since I read all the books and all that stuff, I ended up like thinking more of money as a tool and something that I can use to actually build the life that I want for myself. So it didn't really happen, like right away.
Overnight. Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't happen overnight. Like, cause I think a lot of my mindset around money stemmed from my childhood and how I was brought up like with money. So I think that was the reason why I just kind of associated money with just spending. So yeah.
Yeah, I was the same way too. Like, I don't know if it's like the Filipino culture. I have no idea.
I
Like,
think so.
it probably is because like for the guys, it's like, oh, what car are you driving? Let's see, let's get that
Mm,
BMW, let's get that
yes.
new friggin' race car. And then for at least what I saw with like my cousins and even my parent, like my mom and my aunts, they're all like, oh, the Gucci bags, the Coach bags, whatever it was. It's like that's how you show your wealth is
Yeah.
through what you have, not. And like you said, like now I'm looking back, like I don't think really my parents or anyone in my circle talked about investing or anything like that. And their whole plan is to was to work until they're 60, 65, or till whenever. And I guess similar mindsets like that's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
So
And I
like,
think, like now that you said that, like, I think growing up as nurses too, like because that's what we've seen happen to most of our relatives, that's what we think is our fate too. Like we're
yeah,
gonna have to work until, we're 60.
yeah, that's I'm not gonna let that happen. But
No, no, especially now that we know what we know now, like we know we have options.
and well, since you're like a serial entrepreneur, did you do like side hustles before you got into like investing and business and all that too?
That is actually a great question, but I have always side hustled, my way. Like it's my mind always kind of goes into places where like ideas where I'm like I can make money doing this, I can make money this doing
Hmm.
this. So even though like at that time before investing, I was really only doing it to make money to spend, not necessarily invest. I've always had like side hustles, like even when I was, like when I was a student in college, I was working two jobs. And then when I became a nurse, I was playing video games and I was actually streaming that video games. Like I was doing Twitch back then. I was making money off of that. And I was doing I don't know. We could talk about like side hustles,
Let's
like
do it.
for no, but I honestly love the idea that you can always do something on the side where you can make extra money. So it wasn't really until recently that I really looked at it as like, oh, this is like real. Like this is like, yeah, I have to make this legalized. Like I have to start an LLC and all that stuff. Everything else before is kind of just like for fun, but in a
Mhm.
way making money on the side. But it's not until recently that I've learned more about the business side of things where I'm like, okay, I could actually start a business doing this, all this stuff. But in general, I've always had like all these ideas. Like I've always kind of had like a hustler like mentality, even when I was younger.
Which I think is great because I feel like that's what got us to where we are today, having like that entrepreneurial spirit. But what games did you play? Because I also streamed on Twitch too. Got like that
I love
partnership. I was
Yeah,
like,
no, that's awesome. No, I it's funny because like my husband is a gamer. I wasn't a gamer, and then so we met in college, and then I've always seen him playing video games. At that time, my real hobby only is like reading books, and then so I would like see him like play video games. I'm like, what is he doing? And then I ended up like because he spends a lot of time doing it. I was like, I need to kind of learn what he's doing and see if I can spend time with him doing what he likes to do. And then so the very first game I actually played is League of Legends. This was back even when it was in beta before. And then I ended up switching to first person shooter games, so like FPS
Nice.
games. Like I've played Counter-Strike for so long. Like I
Me
think that
too.
yeah, I have like 2,500 hours in that game. And then I ended up playing like MMOs like, WoW, Black Desert and all that stuff. And then the one that got me partnered on Twitch was this game called Black Desert Online. And then so when I was in NP school, this is actually what I did as a side hustle, is that I would go to work, and then like the days that I'm not working I would stream. And then on those streams like I would get like subscriptions, like
Mhm.
donations and all that stuff. And I even partnered with like an esports gaming company back then. And
Oh,
then so
dang.
yeah, it's like it's kind of like a way for me to like pay for my bills at that time, because I wasn't doing full-time work nursing. So yeah, so I love video games. I still play video games. I haven't played video games in a while because I'm so busy with like the business and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But I right now I play Valorant. So
Oh, that's a fun game.
yeah, it's
Like,
really fun. How
I look
about
at
you?
my
What
PC
games
all
did
the
you play?
time. I
What
played
did
a lot of Counter-Strike growing up. I played, like, 1.3 all the way to Source, where it's all the way new, and then, like, that was throughout high school, we'd go to all, like, the LAN tournaments in New York City,
Oh, so
and
fun.
then, what got me partnered on Twitch was I can't even remember what it was, like, Fortnite, and there was, like, another one. I can't remember what the game was. It kinda, like, reminded me of Counter-Strike, but it wasn't Valorant. It was something
Oh,
else that came
Overwatch?
out.
No.
No, I can't
Oh.
remember what it is. I'm looking at my desktop, I can't even find it. I probably deleted all my games because, like, I just don't have time to play, but,
Yeah, I know. It's sucky. Like grown up things. It's so hard to.
like, I was just talking about that with my wife. Because she saw me, like, in, like, deep thought when we were driving home from work because we work at the same hospital. She's like, "What do you
Mhm.
think about it?" I was like, "I kinda miss playing video games," and she just, like, stared at
Yeah.
me, is like, 'cause, like, I have that addictive personality that if I start playing, it's gonna, like, take over my life for a little bit, and it's
You
like
know what's so crazy? Like, there was a not even like a study, but somebody made a video before. I forgot who it is, but then they said that like the best business owners are like gamers too, because they gamify like everything in life. And as I don't know, like I love gamers because like we're very competitive by nature, but at the same time, like, we really like try to reach goals. So I think that like if you're a gamer and you're a business owner, like you would do so good, because like you would like think of the goal as like a goal in game that you
Mhm.
have to reach, and you
Achievement.
won't stop. Yes, achieve it. You won't stop until you reach it. So I think that you're gonna do so great, like being a business owner too.
So, let me ask you something, like, we're already on a million tangents, but I love talking like this.
We are.
So your kids, right? Are you gonna teach them
Mhm.
how to play video games?
You know what? It's funny because like my husband and I are both gamers. So we always like joke about like how we're gonna have our kids play video games. They're gonna be our healers in game. But I don't know. I mean, for me, I always like, we always have this kind of like goals for our kids and like things, visions for our kids. But at the end of the day, like we're really here to kind of just like guide them. Like if they ended up liking video games, that's fine. If they ended up not liking it, that's totally fine as well. I'm all for like them just like doing things that they like to do,
Mhm.
like that makes them happy. So
'Cause I've had,
yeah.
like, conversations with, like, other parents, and they're like, "Oh, I'm not gonna let my kids play video games," and I'm like, "Why?" They're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
it's just gonna take over their life." I was like, "But the more you play video games, especially the games that probably we played growing up, um, those games were hard, and there a lot of problem solving, then you get a lot of fine motor
Yeah.
skills, you think about strategy in a lot of games." I was like, "Are you guys just like, do you really think this a video game is just, like, always fun?
I
No, it's hard.
know.
Some of these games are hard."
No, I love meeting like other gamers, because only gamers would understand this, because like I mean it could be addictive, right? Like it could take up a lot of your time. And that's the same for any kind of things in life. Like yes, things could be addictive to the point where you're spending so much time like, mindlessly doing those things, like scrolling on TikTok, scrolling on Instagram, right? But I think like there has to be like, in moderation. But you're right. Like video games definitely is not just video games. Like you actually have to think sometimes. You have to strategize things, right? But yeah.
But yeah, let's bring it back. So like this is like one of the coolest things about like the podcast that we host. We show options of the nursing field. Like on our days off, you're able to do things like stream, find the side hustles, and find passion projects that could potentially make you money and just time, because what are we working, 3 12s or 4 10s usually,
Yeah. Mhm.
and so you have those extra days where other people don't, where you could really look for ways to capitalize on that time. um so for your businesses, like the first one is like, is it nursing flow sheet?
Yeah. So yeah, nursing flow sheet. And then I used to have a business before that's like a boutique. But I have no time to really like I told you, I have so many ideas. And then like the thing too, sometimes with business ownership that's really difficult is knowing when to pivot and like when to like when to go to the next idea, that kind of stuff. But what I find is that a lot of business owners, a lot of businesses really thrive if you like really focus on that one thing that you really truly believe in and be consistent with it. Because the thing is, a lot of people have been on the same industry for so long. And then the reason why they're so successful is because they have seen what works, what didn't. They reiterate, like, and all that stuff. They try to make what things work. So, like, I mean, it's still a struggle for me, to be honest with you, to know when to pivot and like, oh, should I change my niche? Should I even find a different offer? Should I do something else and all that stuff? But really sticking to what you believe in and just like being consistent with it has been kind of like a game changer for me. Right now, I only have the nursing flow sheet as a business. But that's what I'm focusing on. Like, I think like you really become really good at what you focus on. So that's why I really want to, make it work.
So what do you teach in the nursing flow sheet?
So nursing flowsheet really started off as a blog first. Because I
Mhm.
love writing. I've always so when I was younger, actually, like I've always wanted to be a writer. I find that I can
Mhm.
express myself better through writing. And then my parents, my mom's especially, like she's like, there's no money in writing, like you're not gonna make a lot of money in it. Like you can do that as a hobby, but there's no business in that. So just work in healthcare because that's where the money is
Oh
and all
yeah.
that stuff. So I've kind of like just did it on the side as something that I do, whenever I want to express myself or if I want to, do something. And then so nursing flowsheet actually just started as kind of like my diary with my nursing, career. So I started it as like where I put in my experiences, like being a nurse, being a new grad nurse, and all that stuff. And it wasn't even, I don't even have an audience for it. It's just like really what I do on the side. And then I named it Nursing Flow Sheet because, I don't know about you, but I became a nurse when EMR and
Yeah.
everything is not even a thing. So we do paper charting and we chart everything in the nursing
In the
flow
flow
sheet, like
sheet.
the INOs, the vital signs, and all that stuff. So that's where I initially like kind of wrote down my nursing experiences, like in an online form. And then when I learned about money, I was like, oh, this is our good things to know. I'm gonna write everything that I learned about money in this blog. So I write the mistakes that I've made, what I do with my money, that kind of stuff. And then later on, like it started, like started writing more and more, not for me but for nurses who were in the same position as I was before. So I find that there's a lot of nurses who don't know anything about money, who don't know anything about, debt, credit, and all that other, good stuff. And then so I was like, okay, this is going to be kind of like a place where nurses can go in for financial education. So essentially it's just a very focused on financial education, how to be good with money, and at the same time also optimizing your careers to make money. And then I also teach specifically like in my signature program how to invest long term in the stock market. That way you can, make your money work for you while you're working your full-time job. So that's really what it's been. I have like big visions for it, in the future. I want it to be like kind of like this big like website where people can just come in, like kind of like, I don't know if you know the
Mhm.
collegeinvestor.com.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that, like a big, company where like everyone can just come in and learn about I mean, nurses mostly like learn about money. So yeah.
Did you advertise it at all, or like just it just started getting a lot of traffic?
It's actually pretty crazy because all my growth in social media in the past, like years have been all organic. So
Wow.
like I told you, like everything is just kind of like I'm doing it just for fun. Like it wasn't until last year that I actually thought about it as like, oh, this could be like a business. I could make, extra money out of this by spending, my time and, my effort and all that stuff. So all throughout the years, like I think it all started like kind of blowing up in this was back in the pandemic, like in 2019. I started making TikTok videos on just like about Roth IRA, about, investing and all that stuff. And then I started getting more and more followers asking me, questions like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And then my siblings and my parents started asking me about this too. So I was like, oh, this is like great, information. So I would tell people like, oh, this is what I told my sister to invest in, like because she doesn't know anything about investing. And then so it kind of just kind of, like kind of blew up. And it's I always say that like the work that you do when it comes to social media is like compound interest.
Mhm.
Like your money, it's like interest on top of interest. It's the same thing when you do social media. It's like the follower that you have, they tell somebody about your page, and then it also compounds over time. So it really is not one of those things that happen overnight. So when people ask me like, Ellaine, like how did you get so much people to
Followers.
follow you? Yeah, like because they're like, how did you like blow up? Like how did you like have this many people, like liking your page and all that stuff? I'm like, to be honest with you, like this took time. Honestly, back then in Instagram, I was like, I thought like getting 10,000 followers is like gonna be like so impossible. Like because back then like you can only get a link in your
Oh,
stories
yeah.
if you have 10,000 followers. So in my mind I was like, I'm never going to get this. Like it's so hard. So I never really thought about it. And this the more that I don't really think about that numbers, it just started happening. And then I woke up and I'm like, I have 70,000 people following me now. It's like
Wow.
it's crazy. Like it takes time, but the more you don't really, put too much emphasis on the numbers, but the content that you put out, the the better it will be as far as like you're growing on social media.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed with mine as well, is, like, I originally just started out as, like, a meme page for fun, but then
Mhm.
like, my family members and even, like, coworkers, because I was, like, teaching them how to do certain things with the stock market. They're like, "Why don't you just start teaching it? Because 'Cause you're already teaching us here.
Yeah.
Put out content, have some fun with it, make fun of a few things, and then you'll slowly grow," and then all of a sudden, nowhere near your following, but I've only had this,
Um,
like, page open for, like, 7 months, and I have, like, almost 8,000. I was like, "Wow,
no,
where did that
that's
come
good.
from?" I
Yeah,
was
that's
that's
good.
so, like, for your investing, so long-term investing, like, what are your main points that you try to go over with the people that sign up?
Well, the thing is, like for me, I think that if we're educated, we make better decisions.
Mhm,
So I don't really necessarily tell the students that I have or the nurses that I teach a specific way of investing.
mhm,
I teach them their options. I'm a big fan of like having options,
mhm.
obviously. And so like I teach them different strategies, and depending on their risk tolerance and their goals, and they pick whatever strategy works best for them. So I just kind of teach them what I've learned in the last years of me investing as well. But I'm a big fan of like long-term investing because as you know with investing, like it takes time. Like
Mhm.
investment is an investment for a reason. It's not one of those things that like you put in the money, you get the money right away.
Yeah.
Like otherwise like not really like an investment in a sense. Like I feel like most good investments take time. And so like long-term investing, because a lot of nurses that I or like my specific audience and my specific like kind of like client avatar is somebody who's working a full-time job, and they want to make their money work for them while they work their full-time jobs. And
Yeah.
like I could teach them about other things to make money, right? Like I could teach them like what you're teaching people, options trading, which is great. Like, it's a great source of income
Mhm.
for people who really know what they're doing. And I could teach them about like drop shipping or like other things where I have made money. But in my mind, my product or like my course is really meant for people who just want to make their money work for them, want to learn how to make like long-term investments, want to learn more about financial education
Mm,
while they're working their full-time job, so they can have the option to retire early if they want to. Like they can be like, oh, okay, I can have this time frame and I can retire in 10 years if I just invest this much. So I mean, and I always tell people, like, really it all depends on your goals. Like if you want to retire in the next 5 years, then you're going to be hustling way harder
yeah,
than
way harder.
somebody who plans to retire 20 years from now. So it really is a lot about education. But like I had mentioned, education really is education is free. Like these are things you can look up online, but the action or implementation that you need to make that happen, like if you need like actually somebody who would teach you how to do it, like guide you, and you can have that person to go through it with you, then that's kind of like the whole value of that program, is because you have that person kind of helping you put in the action what you learned. Because I love learning, I'm all for learning, but learning really without you putting any action into it, it's not
Yes.
gonna get you anywhere. Like
Yeah.
I could listen to all the podcasts in the world, read all the books, but if I'm not taking the action to actually like apply those things, then it's not, it's not going to be useful.
Yeah. Yeah, it ends up being useless, just useless knowledge in your head
Yeah.
if you don't actually implement
Yeah.
anything that you're learning.
Hmm.
And so when these students of yours, since are you the main focus person that runs everything? Like, do you do a monthly webinar or something to for those people to
Yeah.
walk them through what they would need to know?
I So initially when I started this program, I do like more of like it was actually a weekly thing,
Oh wow.
with the beta people that I did this with. Like I would go on every Friday. This time you ask me questions about it, and then it's like a 5-week weekly thing. But then, like, I find that a lot of nurses are busy, so a lot of them can't even make it to the
Yeah.
calls. They can't really, and I was like, okay, so how can I actually, make this work for them? So I ended up just setting up like a time, like an office hour, and then they can put in their questions and I answer it live for them. And then I just upload it in our kind of like area in the library. But there is a 24/7 kind of chat feature in the program, where if you are stuck with something in the program that you're like confused, then they can ask questions, in that chat. So
Wow.
it really is like, at the same time, you have this idea of like what you think would work for them, but at the end of the day, like they tell you what will work for them. So I kind of switch things around depending on what they need. But right now, i'm i I look at myself as like a solopreneur, because I'm doing things everything on my own. Like I'm the only person doing
Yeah.
the classes, like doing all the content and all that stuff. But I think eventually, like, I'll probably hire it out. Maybe, I don't know, like train people to do, like this kind of teachings. But that's way far ahead. And I don't even know if I really want a coaching business, because I really want the education part. And I don't know. Like it's still kind of like I'm still in the process of
Figuring it
teaching
out.
and figuring it out, depending on what they need.
Yeah, that's what I'm having like a problem with because ever since I put the course out, so a good amount of people bought it, and I said like, just so people understand it more, I'll do like one-on-ones. But now the one-on-ones is like I guess I forgot that we have so many different shifts of nurses, and because they're all nurses that buy the course, and then I also have like a family, I have kids, I have to put them to sleep and all that. Then we're trying to figure out times to do this one-on-one where
Hmm.
it's taking up a lot of time
It is.
where I'm trying to think like, what's the best way to do it? Should I do like a weekly call
Mhm.
or but then I asked a few people, would this like I asked for feedback, would this be better if we could do like a group thing? And then all of them like, no, I really want the one-on-one so I can ask my specific
Yeah.
questions. But then I was also like not a pushing back, but saying like a lot of you guys have the same question. But
Mm.
then it's like, so how what do I do? So I'm
Yeah.
thinking like that same route of like everyone put all their questions in one thing, and I'll make a video. I'll either upload it
Yeah.
specifically to a database, or I'll even just put it on YouTube as extra content as well for people
Mhm.
that are doing it. But it's I forgot how I didn't know how much time making your own brand could
Oh,
be.
yeah. It definitely is a lot of time, and not only, like, I mean, you put in the time, but at the same time, like, there's so many kind of tasks and things to do in the back end that it's not just the one-to-one call. Like, after the call is done, you have to do this other things, like, it's not just like a face-to-face, like,
Hmm.
use of time, but it definitely is a lot of effort and a lot of time. And like, no, everything that I've learned now, like, your time is so valuable that
Hmm.
I used to do this all for free for so long that, like, I value my time too. And I think that people will value your time if you value your time as well. So that's why I started, charging for things, because people are like, when people get things for free, which is totally fine, right? But a lot of times people don't really kind of value it if it's doesn't have a price on it. That's the thing.
It
So
isn't that terrible. Like, so
yeah.
I like similar situation. So my whole thing of the way I trade is I sell for premiums. I sell for options for money. And I feel like it's a very safe way to do it. And I've been doing this for years, like
Mm-hmm.
years on years on years, like at least 5 years now. And I've taught a lot of my coworkers it. Some of them understand it and they're doing it and they're making a good amount of money off it. But I've also offered this free teaching over, if
Mm-hmm.
I've done it for 5 years, I've taught it for free for 4. And now that I put a price tag on it, now all those people that said they didn't want to learn throughout those 4 years are all of a sudden asking, hey, you offered this for free before. How come I have to pay for it now?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, and I don't really know the answer, but it's also like, I can't do this for free anymore. So like,
Yeah.
how do you look at like stuff like that?
No, it's crazy because, like, I've always been like hesitant to like put price on things because I'm not a very salesy person to
Yeah.
begin with. But when I started my business and I shifted my mindset around selling versus offering, that
Mm,
will kind of change your mindset about it, because I'm not really selling. I'm not just selling a course. I'm not just selling a product. I'm offering you my help so you can learn and implement these actions and learn about investing. A lot of times, like what you said, people don't. I always say commitment comes with a price. Like, a lot of people don't commit if there's no money in it. Like, if you
yeah.
think about it, like, nurses wouldn't be working, like, in a busy ICU if they're not getting paid to do that. Like, no
Yeah.
one in their right mind will, like, just work for free. No one in their right mind right now, unless of course you're a billionaire, your basic needs are met and you are just very,
Yeah.
a
You're just
philanthropist and all that stuff.
you're
Yeah.
on your side quest already.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Like, your main quest is done, right? Then you can work on your side quest. And this is like kind of like a dream for me to do, to be able to actually work as a nurse because I just want to, because it's not because I would need the money, like. And a lot of times
Mhm.
people don't really commit if there's no price to it. And it's the same thing when you go to college. Like, if you try to finish your degree because you paid for it, right?
Mhm.
So commitment comes with the price. And whenever I sell my products, I think of it as me offering my time, my resources, to help somebody reach their goal. And the way that you change your mindset around that will help you so much in, helping other people, because you're not really thinking of the money. You're actually like thinking of the value you're providing to other people.
Yeah, and that's what I was trying to explain to a few people, being like, for the course, I was like, I told them, yeah, it's a course, but you're also getting unlimited access to me. So there's a unlimited amount of value. They're like, oh, I don't think it's expensive, but then they're like, oh, how do I know if I'm gonna get my money back. I was like, well, you're literally seeing how much money you're making per trade right
Mm-hmm.
when you trade it. So it's like the average is everyone's making it back within like the first few weeks, if depending on how big your portfolio is. But the education you're getting from this, if you do it consistently, do it and your portfolio grows, it's
Mm-hmm.
unlimited amount of money that you could be making where
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to do these overtime shifts anymore. You could
Yeah.
actually go into work happy knowing that you're making money without an hourly wage. And I think that like goes into like the similar things like we both like talking about is options. Like you have options of making money outside of work. You could do the overtime shift, but if you have other ways of making money,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to do those overtime shifts. You might actually just come to work not burnt out,
Yeah.
happier, less stressed, less anxiety,
Yeah.
all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But let's talk about how were you invited to the New York Stock Exchange?
Oh, that's so crazy because it's so surreal that happened, and I think I talked to a few people about it. How when I got invited by BlackRock, like I thought it was like a spam email.
I
Like
100% would have thought it was a
yeah,
spam.
I was like, no, because I've been making like content, like I told you, like for a few years now, and it's all about investing in all that stuff. And BlackRock has not followed me or anything, so or like iShares or like their marketing person never followed me or said anything. So when I got this email, I thought it was a spam. So I actually ignored it maybe for a few days. They're actually inviting me for like an influencer event. Like right now I still like don't think of myself as an influencer. But they have like an influencer summit for people who talk about investing and all that stuff. And then I got that email. I After a few days I ignored it because I was like, there's no way, this is probably a spam. And then when I was cleaning up my email, because I clean up my email all the time. Like it really bugs me if there's a
You're
lot
one
of
of
like
those.
yeah.
You would
Yeah.
hate to see my email.
Oh my gosh, my sister, I kid you not, like she has like 300,000 unread emails, and I was gonna throw her phone away because I was like, I cannot, I don't know how you
See all
can get
those red
so
bubbles next to the mail thing.
I can't like right now I don't know if it's any, but I hate those red bubbles, so I try to get all the notifications and everything from my phone. But anyways, going back to what we were talking about. So I was cleaning up my email and I looked at this like email again, and I was like looking at who sent it, and it was actually like blockrock.com. So I was like, oh, okay. And then so I messaged back and I'm like, thank you for reaching out. Like, I am very happy to learn more about this information or like this event. And this was back in November last year. And I was like, okay. And then they asked me for my address. They sent me something, in the mail. It was like a PR package from iShares. And they're like,
Wow.
we would like to invite you to New York, like to ring the bell because we are releasing this target date ETF fund for iShares. And I was like, okay. And, I work a full time job. I have 2 kids. So I was like, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I was even like debating if I should go or not, but then it was funny because my dad is actually, I told my parents about it, and my dad's the one who encouraged me, and my mom too. They're like, why don't you go? This is like a lifetime, opportunity. Like, just go. Like, who else would have said that they got invited to ring the bell,
Hmm.
in the BlackRock, by BlackRock at the New York Stock Exchange. So and it turns, out that date ended up being the date that it was my husband and I's anniversary. So it was in November. So I told my husband, why don't we make a trip out of this so you can come with me and we can go to the New York Stock Exchange. And then so he's like, okay. And then I asked, and this is great thing too. We have great support. We have my in-laws who took care of our kids that weekend, and we flew to New York. And it was such a surreal experience because all the other influencers there are like influencers that I was like, oh my gosh, like they have like millions of followers on YouTube and all that stuff. And then they actually emailed me like a few days before, you know what? We need 5 creators to go up to the actual ring to ring the bell. And we would love for you to be one of those 5 people because what you do for nurses, and I think nurses really deserve, to live good lives and have a dignified retirement. We really love the work that you do, and we would love for you to go up there. So I was like, yes, I'm
Wow.
gonna go there. I'm gonna go up there. And then it's really awesome because like we went there, and then it was just like so surreal. Like I'm like, I can't believe I'm inside this. And then you go inside, there's actually like a little hallway going up where you ring the bell, and there's a bunch of like signatures. So I actually put in my name in there. You can sign your name
Wow.
in it, and now I can tell my kids like my name is in the New York Stock Exchange, and then so we ring the bell, and then there's like a little event that talked about target date ETFs after that. And then it's really nice. Like I've kind of been like contacting like iShares to kind of give them my feedback as a nurse, like what our struggles are as nurses when it comes to retirement and investing. And it's so nice to be an influencer in that, in that in that,
That's that
concept. Yeah.
space. That's a space a lot of us don't even get an opportunity to do. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was surreal, and I'm so thankful for that. But yeah, it was so crazy. Like I still think about it to this day. And then just recently, I went to Nasdaq too. So it's so crazy, like how much have changed in the last years, and actually being able to do what I do now, like when it comes to um the social media and like promoting investing for nurses. So yeah.
Oh, that's it, it's amazing to see. Like when I saw it, I was like, damn, how did she do that? That's awesome.
It's really awesome. Yeah.
And I forgot where I was going. I got super excited about hearing about that. I was like, that is such a cool thing. It's like
Thank you.
you gotta
Yeah.
sign your name on the wall, you gotta go to NASDAQ, the New York
Yeah.
Stock Exchange. And then do you for just going back a little bit, like do you get like your friends and family members that don't really understand what you do, like kind of
Oh.
like give you like what does she know kind of
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
thoughts?
And the thing too is like you get this a lot whenever you venture on things like this. You will always get people who would question your abilities, who would question your skills, your certifications, and all these things, whether
Mhm.
that's coming from people that you know in real life or people like in general who doesn't even know you online, right? But yeah, like I for the most part though, the people that I care about all believe in me, and they all encourage me to do what I do. And really that's all that matters at the end of the day. Like I know for sure there are people who are probably like, what does she know? Like,
She's just the nurse.
she's just a nurse. Like, what does she know about the stock market? Or like, what does she know about investing? Like, she works in healthcare. Like, she shouldn't be talking about, this kind of stuff. But you know what? I know there are people out there like that, but there are also people who are nurses, who are healthcare workers, who look at my content, who look at me and are like, wow, if she can do this, I can do it too. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
I love how you put that too. Like if she could do it, I could do it too. And it's not in a negative way too, where a lot of people say that exact term in a negative way. Oh, if they could do it, I could do it. But you're saying it in such a positive light. Like, yes, it is this easy as long as you want to put your best foot forward, educate yourself a little bit. You can do this.
Hmm.
And that's what's amazing with like the time that we live in. Like we grew up in the time before internet, and then we got
Yeah.
internet, and then now look at like social media. So like
Yep.
you could learn so much if
Yeah.
you look for the things you want to
Hmm.
search for.
Yeah.
And I know you said you still like kind of want to work, but do you see yourself working to the ripe retirement age?
No, it's hard to say, right? Like, I mean, we all have goals in life, and it could go into like 5 year, 10 year, 20 year, increments.
Mhm.
Um, and then that could change still, right? Like you could have like goals right now for the future, but then later on you'd be like, oh, actually, I don't want to do this anymore, or actually, I want to do this. But for now, I actually I always like think of my dream life, and that's what I always tell people to think about. Like, what does your ideal day look like? Like not just like future wise, but how would you like to spend your days?
Hmm.
For me, I love being a nurse. Like I always tell, or like nurse practitioner, like I love the work that I do right now. But I don't want it to be a forced thing. Like I don't want to have to go to work and be told that, oh, you cannot have your PTO because no one else is gonna see your patients at this day. Like I don't like that. Like I'm very much of a person who doesn't like to be told what to do. Like so if anything, for me, I would love to work per diem, just work when I want to.
Yeah.
And that looks like once a week or once every 2 weeks. And then work less on my business and spend most of my days with my kids and my family. And that is really what my ideal, like life is, or my dream life is for me to be able to read books like late at night because I don't have work the next day. I can like stay up watching that. I can stay up playing video games if I want to and not worry about the next day, like being late for work. So
Hmm.
I mean, I for now I do see myself still working as a nurse practitioner, but not like as a
The
full-time
full
staff.
time.
Yeah, it would be a per diem thing. I would work mostly on my business and helping other people like through my own creativity and my own, way, and then just spending most of my time with my kids. Like that's really the dream life.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like a lot of people ask, like, what's your why? Like, if you don't have a why, you probably shouldn't be in like a making your own business because like there's too much headache going with it. Because like you could just do your W-2 job and go home, do your work, go
Yeah.
home. But if you have a definite why, you figure out ways to get to those goals, like you said, even if it's like 5 years out, 10 years out, whatever your retirement age is. Like
Yeah.
I have like a similar thing where I want to be able to be home more and see my kids grow up because like my parents are both nurses, but they worked opposite shifts. One was night shift, one was day
Mm,
shift. So you didn't really you only got one
yeah.
for like
Mhm.
our whole childhood. Like they gave us a great life, but it would have been nice to have more family time
Yeah.
instead of figuring out, oh, who's home today? Who am I gonna get chicken nuggets or am I getting McDonald's like warming up chicken nuggets or McDonald's or something like that?
And your
Just
wife is a nurse too, right? Yeah.
yeah, so like for now we're good with kind of switching up our schedules. We get like 2 days off together, but
Mhm.
it's it is tough. It would be nicer
Yeah.
to have more days together, having like those family fun days, family
Yeah.
trips, and what does your husband do?
He's actually funny thing is I met him in nursing school, and people always ask me, "Where did you meet him?" But he's not a nurse. He actually like he he dropped out because he's like, "This is not for me." He realized early on after his first clinical, like shift that nursing
Like,
is not for me. He grew up with a family. I mean, his mom is a nurse. His mom worked two jobs. And we actually just celebrated her birthday yesterday. She's 70 years
oh
old, but
wow.
she worked so hard like growing up. And my husband's they're very thankful for what she did, but it's so hard for her not to be able to be there for her kids, like when he was growing up. So it was the dad who was with them. But she's celebrating now. She's always with her grandkids and all that stuff. And so my husband actually did not want to be a nurse, seeing other nurses in his family. He's like,
Hmm.
this is not for me. So he is an engineer.
I was
And
about to say there's only like two other jobs you're gonna go into. It's either engineer or accounting, and then if you didn't want to go to school, you're a mailman.
Oh my gosh, so Filipino. No, oh my god, so true, but so
I'm sorry to
stereotypical.
every Filipino that I just hurt their feelings for putting out a stereotype like that. I was like, there's only two other options here.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. But yeah, he is an engineer. But yeah, we our schedules are kind of the same. So our kids has to be in preschool. So yeah, it's difficult, and I want to be there for my kids more. So yeah.
And so I'm not going to delve into like your finances, but I'm guessing you make a decent amount of money off your business because I get a lot of people ask me, how come you don't quit already? And just work on your businesses full time. And my biggest
Yeah.
thing is like healthcare. Healthcare is
Yeah.
expensive. I was like,
Mhm.
that's why I don't leave yet, because it
Mhm.
is way too expensive. Where at least if I come to my nursing job, I know I'm going to have insurance, and everything that I make in the business could get reinvested back in the business to make it grow. And I won't have to worry about the extra expenses. And I think that's like a similar sentiment that like Jason and Monica from Nurses to Riches has as well. Like,
Mhm.
if you're making so much money, I don't believe you because you're still working your nursing job. Is that like a similar thing for you as well?
Um, the thing is, for me, I am very risk tolerant. But I take really calculated risks. So if I'm gonna, quit full time, I have to be very strategic about it.
Yeah.
And the thing with business is that a lot of people don't really realize that it's not like all sunny days all the time, right? And that's one thing that I'm still learning to kind of like adapt to, is that, some days you're going to make more money, some
Yes.
days you're not going to make as much. And in contrast to like working your W2, you get like the same amount of money every single time, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm still at that point where I'm still strategizing how I'm going to do this and really preparing myself, most especially mindset wise, with that big change, as
Yeah.
far as like the pay and all that stuff. But I make good money in my W2. My husband makes good money, like relatively wise, like where we live, we're comfortable and all that stuff. And then my business actually has been making good money as well. But at the same time, it's not the same every
Yeah.
month, you know? And that's one of the pitfalls sometimes of some people. It's like they make really good money in 1 month and then they're like, I'm quitting my job because I made good money. Like I make more than what I make in my
Yeah.
nursing job. And that has happened to me, maybe a few times already, like where I made more in my business versus my nursing job. But that's not the same all the time. Like the next month I would make like way less and I'd be like, okay, so what happened here? And I think I'm still at the process of preparing myself mindset wise, and also having make sure that we have a good safety net like financially before I like dive into full-time business ownership. Because if this is just me, and this is the same thing with Monica and Jason, if it's just us and we have no kids in the
Yeah.
picture, I would have done this long time ago. Like if no one's relying on my income, if I don't need to feed people, I could go broke, I could be hungry and all that stuff, but I can never see my kids hungry or like broke or like get them through this whole mess because of me. So that's why for me, it's more of like really like calculating everything and like planning everything. But I'm a planning, person. I plan everything. Even before I plan when I sleep. So like everything has to be in order before I even, you know, do that. So yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Uh, I agree. Like, so like before I switched up my content on my YouTube to like nursing and
Hmm.
um entrepreneurship and like that, I was doing like a lot of like stock picks, crypto picks and all that. The ones that I was actually trading at the time. And that's how like my subscriber count got to like 20 something thousand. And I was making, because like finance YouTube makes a lot of money. I was making more than what I was making monthly um at my nurse job. And then some people found out that I was making a good amount of money, like similar to what you were saying, is
Yeah.
like, oh, why don't you just quit and just do this full time? I was like, I don't know how long this is gonna last. Like,
Yeah.
it's a good few months to a year run, but it could go away instantly. And now I'm searching for a job. And so, like, again, I'm like just thankful I didn't quit, because who knew I was gonna make this pivot to where I am now, to
Yeah.
pretty much start all over again. And at least like nursing gave me the opportunity to keep myself on my feet while switching everything.
Yeah.
But we're going close to an hour here. So like this went by really fast. I
I
was like,
know.
what the heck? Where did it
It's
go?
already an hour. Wow.
But so let's like go into a few questions of like, What was your biggest like money fail?
Mm, I have a lot, to be honest with you. Um, I would say maybe there's two. It's one, not investing early, because that's what everybody says, like once they see the power of investing and compound interest, is that one of the biggest mistake is I was making good money as a nurse, but I wasn't investing at that time. And if I had invested at that time, I would have been in a better, position now. But not saying I'm in a bad position now, but like that's a regret that most people who learn about investing learn later on, is that they didn't start early. So once you kind of have an idea that this is something that you need to be doing, you should do it now. Like whether you are a new grad nurse or whether you're in your 40s or 50s, like if you're hearing this episode right now, you should be investing. Like that's the thing. So you don't have that mistake later on. Second one is um not being educated, not really like not educating myself in the things that I don't understand.
Yeah.
I always say that you make better decisions when you're educated. So like some people say things are not good for them or and all that stuff without really having an idea of what those things are. So like in order for you to have like um an informed decision on things, you have to be educated on those things. So like start educating yourself about money, start educating yourself about investing, and then that way you can make better decisions for your life financially.
Yeah, that's huge. When I was just on like the InvestRN podcast with Josh and Colin, they asked me like a similar question, and I was like, my biggest fail was thinking there's like a get rich quick thing of like penny stocks, and like that was. I'm happy I went through that because I lost money, and it forced me to change
That's the
change
same
my.
thing with me with options trading.
I
I did
was
options and I was like, I lost money and I did not know what the heck I was doing. So be educated in what you do.
I was like, thank God I did that early, because even
Mm-hmm.
though it was like a few grand lost, I was like, at least it was so early where I was
Yes.
able to switch it all up. And then let's say, what was your biggest success so far in with money?
Oh, hmm. That's- It's like the opposite of the other one. being being educated about money and actually investing my money and actually like um started investing early on and starting my business as well. I think that like I always like am an advocate for calculated risks. So
Mhm.
um that risk of like starting that business, that risk of like investing my money, like they all kind of paid off. So and also like switching to being a nurse practitioner, because I think that not only improved my life in general, like my schedule, made me more money and made me work less hours for me to be able to do other things outside of nursing. So I would say that's the biggest win I have. It's like being a nurse practitioner, because although it may not work for some other people, it really worked for me, like work life balance wise, that
Mhm.
I'm able to do things outside of my career for me to improve my life financially. So,
Perfect. And you said you're a bookworm. Outside of Rich Dad Poor Dad, any
okay.
financial books that you recommend for people to read?
There's so many. Like I love reading books. Like I love audibles too.
Mhm.
One of the things that I love that it's like right here. One of the things that I love is like working on your money mindset. So you are a badass at making money. This one's a really great book. Um, Common Sense Investing by John Bogle.
Mhm.
This one's really good. I love Bogle investing, especially for long term investing. Think Rich and Grow Rich. I think
Right.
that's the name of the book.
Is
There's
that
so
the
many.
Remit Sadie one? Thinking no,
No,
oh,
I think
Napoleon
that
Hill?
one, yeah, Napoleon Hill. And then Ramit said he is also good. I have a lot of books. I can give you a full list. Like I read so many books. So yeah, those are some of the ones that I love.
And then I know you already touched on it with education, but if anyone, like, what advice would you give someone to, if someone wanted to emulate what you're doing, what other advice would you give other than education?
put in the action, start now. Because and you have to like think of small steps too. Like don't think like if you want to reach a goal that you can get there overnight. Like it takes time, it takes patience. That's the same thing when you're investing. In order for you to get a big portfolio, you have to wait. Like, you know, like patience is a virtue, and people always say that, but that's so true. Like you have to be patient and you have to put in the work in order for you to see the results.
Yeah, that was. You're fun to interview. Like we could have, like
We could go on.
we could go on. I just saw my boy come down the stairs,
I can
so I was
see
like,
it.
"Oh, I was like, I guess it's time." But Ellaine, this was a lot of fun. I'm hoping I could have you on here again, and we could like always like
Awesome.
catch up.
Yeah, definitely.
Family Fun Day is gonna start in a little bit. So Ellaine, thank you so much for
Thank
doing this with
you.
me. I
Mhm.
appreciate you, and hopefully we can do this again.
Okay, awesome. Here, hold on. Let me take a quick selfie so we can. There you go. Thanks for having me.
Of course,
This was fun.
this was a lot of fun. All right.
Okay. Have
All
a
right.
good day with your
All right.
family.
Bye. Thanks again.
Bye.